Streaming from Oklahoma's own digital studio, this is Jeremie Poplin with Thunder Breakdown.
That's right, live from the digital desk, it is the Thunder Breakdown. Welcome in, everyone. My name is Jeremie Poplin as we get set to recap last night's Game 1 loss for the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Denver Nuggets in an absolutely wild affair that we'll get Steve McGehee's thoughts for you coming up here in just 1 second. Reminder, all the Thunder coverage is available on both websites, news9.com and newson6.com as well. Well, let's not waste any time because we've got a lot to get to based off of that game last night. A crazy ending that has the Nuggets with a one-game lead. Basically, we're able to steal Game 1, and now home court advantage rests with the former champions from 2023. But this is about adversity, and you'll hear Mark Daigneault talk about this a lot. He talked about it today. He talked about it after the game last night. The players did as well. You're never going to cruise through an entire playoff setting without having some adversity. And without further ado, let's bring in our first guest. He is Steve McGehee. You know him from News 9, and he joins us now here from the digital desk. Steve, man, what a wild, wild game that was happening last night. You were front and center. By the way, you were all over television last night based off of your courtside seat last night. So every time they zoomed in on Mark Daigneault, there was a little Steve McGehee.
What was I doing?
I was cracking up with some of your facial expressions last night as we're kind of along the ride with you watching the Thunder performance last night. So let's just start with yes. Let's just start with how that happened in your opinion last night. That was at one point in time, what, a 14-point lead, I think, with under 4 minutes to go. I know you were doing a little math right before we came on. I'll let you do the math because I'm terrible at it. But what, 2 field goals from Oklahoma City in the final 3+ minutes heading down the stretch last night. And that Denver just kept finding a way. And we talked about the championship medal that the Nuggets have. And last night that was on full display.
It was. It was frustrating to watch because it comes down to a couple of things, but they couldn't score down the stretch. That was a factor. I think Ihart hit a shot to put him up 115-106 at 3:02 to go, and then Shea has the dunk on the inbounds. That's it. You know, as when it comes to field goals, and so they could not score at the right time, and Denver just kind of slowly chipped away. And the fouling thing, I'm sure we're going to talk about that, but you know that's their mentality to foul when you're up 3. Denver didn't flinch. You know, they hit the shots when it mattered, and I feel bad for Chet Holmgren. He, missed those 2 free throws. And as Dub said last night, I'm like, you can't put all the blame on him. I missed 2 free throws in the first quarter. You know, that's 2 points we could have missed. Chet also had a dunk that went in and out. Every possession, especially in the 5 minutes of a close playoff game, are going to be probably over magnified. And it's easy to rethink what happened after it happened one day later, like, oh, well, they should have done this or they should have done that. The only question I would have is as I kind of process what was going on here, I'm like, why are they fouling so quickly once Denver got the ball? It's like it was like 14 seconds, then 12 seconds, and then 9. It's like it was really slow. I'm like, let them dribble the ball up the floor and kill some time. That's the question mark I had.
Yeah, we'll get to Mark Daigneault's response to that coming up here in just 1 second. But let's just start right there. What I like about Mark's reaction to what happened is he's been able to take full ownership of this. To me, you are not a true leader until you are the one that goes out and says, that's on me. I thought that was growth and signs of the leadership that we've known that this organization has had for a long time now. And Mark was quick to say, yeah, that's on me. Now, to just understand why they're doing that, they've done that the entire year. They've talked about the process that they have. This is what we do when there's a situation that presents itself like this. We foul no matter what. And sometimes it's hard. You get caught up in those moments to where there's little individual moments where maybe that doesn't apply where you are, but the Thunder were essentially being who they are and who they've been the entire year by fouling up by 3.
Yeah, and they weren't really in many of these situations all year long. Now, last year, it went through a lot of close games and 2 years ago as well, and it just backfired. If Aaron Gordon misses that shot, we're talking about how the Thunder was able to hang on and beat the a team that used to win it all, and the Thunder are on their way to win this thing in 4 or 5 games. But Aaron hit the shot. It's just I'm sure he's rethinking the let some time run off the clock. I think that was the biggest thing. This game would not end. It just kept lingering and going on. And this right here, I was able to shoot this from my camera on the phone. It was just tough to watch that. And it's just like, what am I looking at here? They quickly push the ball up the floor. They find, Chet's trying to guard Bress, and then he's too late to get out to Aaron Gordon. And then Dub was just happy to hit the backboard on that shot. But look at Chet's reaction there. That says it all right there. And what a shot by Aaron Gordon. But again, if that shot doesn't go in, we're talking about how great the Thunder played, even though they didn't shoot the ball well. Neither team shot the ball that well, and Denver got the 3 to go in when it counted the most. I think they led the second half. They led in the second half for 3 seconds, and it was the 3 seconds that mattered at the end of the game.
Let's hear from Mark Daigneault as he was asked the question last night about fouling early and allowing Denver the opportunity. In really most instances, this was the only way that they were going to win, is by the Thunder taking this approach. But here's Mark last night after the game.
So a couple things on that. I did think the backcourt fouls hurt us. And again, we can learn from that. The fouling up 3, that's on me. I think given the foul and getting the foul executed is critical. So if, there's something to be learned from that, it's probably giving it too early on my part. But that's not on the players. They're executing what I'm telling them to do.
Yeah, he's exactly right. That's what they've done the entire year. You talked about that, Steve, and now here they were in that situation last night. They're doing exactly what he wanted them to do. And not every scenario is going to play out the way that you want it to every single time. It's just not. And last night, even if it's an analytics decision, which clearly it is by Oklahoma City, that one just didn't work out in their favor last night.
Yeah, the free throws Denver hit them. I was looking at 27 out of 33. They hit the Thunder. They had 27 points from the line. The Thunder had 20, so they got them at the line. So you're just hoping they would miss a free throw, and they didn't. So they were ready for it. If we're in this situation again, he'll probably will do it maybe differently. Let some time off the clock before you foul somebody. But it's a tough way to lose a game. I guess you learn from it, and I'm interested to see how they respond to this, because if they lose game 2, now you're starting to throw a lot of doubt into this team. Are they still too young, or did they not have the right pieces, or is this guy or that guy not going to work out, or it just doesn't gel? But I find that hard to believe after the regular season they had, that they would crumble like this in the playoffs. But every game brings on a different personality. We may be talking about something else. I'm sure we will be leading into game number 3. But as a bad loss, Oklahoma City lost that game. Denver did not win it. It was OKC just not being able to put points on the board in the final 3 minutes, and that's what kept Denver in the game.
Let's hear from SGA after last night's game as well. And he gets into a little bit of the adversity that teams have to go through when you're in this position in the playoffs.
Should be good. It should be fun. We're going to find out what we're made of, what we're really made of. And we couldn't expect it to be smooth sailing this whole journey. No journey in life is, and we know that. And today is a bump in the road, unexpected. No one expects to lose, especially that way, but it's the game of life. So it's about how you respond to getting knocked down, and that's what we got to do next game.
He's exactly right. I mean, they've had the same approach the entire way through. They seemed, I know they were upset, and I know Caruso had said after the game last night, yeah, guys are pretty down because we kind of had to set in that moment, but they're so quick to try to put this one behind them, and they always seem to have the right mental makeup of a team trying to find that next step and take it to the next level.
They have never lost to any team this year. They've never had 3 losses in a row, and if they somehow lose tomorrow night, that would be 3 losses in a row to Denver. So the odds are against Denver to win 3 straight games at Paycom Center, but anything's possible in the playoffs. But I'm really interested to see how this team responds. I think they're going to respond well, but Denver, Denver has nothing to lose tomorrow. They're playing on what they would, a casino term, playing on house money. If we go out and lose, hey, we got one. We got the one we wanted. So it'd be real interesting to see what the Thunder do. And that's a good play there by Chet, early on. Chet, I expect him to have a better game. They need more of that, more threes. They started out the game 0 for 10, and then Caruso kind of got him going there in that second quarter. But they're going to need that, and they're going to need rebounding. They got to block out. J-Dub yesterday after the game was explaining to him, like, we got to put two hands up in the air, and we got to grab the ball with both hands, and we got to block out. And he's right. They got beat at their own game. They were out hustled by the team that went 7 games with the Clippers.
One of the big keys and takeaways from last night's game was the J-Dub performance. I think sometimes we have a tendency to maybe put too much on game one of a series. I don't know if this is going to be a constant through the rest of this series. There have been other times, and I was thinking about this last night in my head in big moments where they need that second guy. Last night it was mainly Caruso, more on him coming up in a bit. But they're going to need the level of consistency out of J-Dub moving forward in this series. And to me, the last thing you want is you don't want Aaron Gordon outplaying J-Dub on a consistent basis moving forward with this series. I expect him to bounce back because we've seen that from him in the past, but that by no means was a game that I think that anyone felt comfortable with him last night when it was all said and done.
Yeah, he played 38 minutes, and I knew he missed a bunch of shots, but I didn't have it memorized. But he missed 15 shots, 2 out of 9 from 3. That's if Shea's the Batman and Robin is J-Dub, that's not good. And he had a kind of questionable semifinal performance against Dallas last year.
Yeah,
he had some good moments, but if you're going to be an all-star in this league, you got to play like an all-star in the playoffs. So I'm really interested to see Chet and Dub, to see how they respond and, fight back against the Denver Nuggets in game number 2.
How was the matchup? We talked a lot about the reason why they went and they were able to sign Hartenstein to this roster is basically because of what Minnesota did to Denver. And they wanted to kind of use that blueprint a little bit from last year in the playoffs. How do you think that the first opportunity that we saw in the playoffs with Ihart and with Chet and the combination that they have of trying to maintain Jokic, who, to me, Steve, just based off of what we've seen from Jokic in the past, his assist numbers were down. He didn't have a great first half. So overall, I can't believe I'm going to say this about a guy that just put up 40 and 20, but maybe like a level B game for me and that's setting the bar and the standard so high with Jokic. But he didn't necessarily distribute the ball last night the way that we've seen sometimes in the past. But how did that defensive duo, in your opinion, come out last night against Jokic?
Jokic had a better second half than first half. Jokic did have 7 turnovers in the game, but I think it was a collective effort with, there were several times Jokic got the ball and he would put it down, and that's when hands were all over it and they take it away from him. He's got to play up top, but he's just a big bully. He's just so hard to defend. It kind of, watching them play on tape kind of reminds you of Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. Those guys would dominate teams because they were unstoppable. And he's in that category with them where he can score as many points as he wants to. He made a key 3 late that that felt like when he hit that 3 late in the game, and like, oh no, this could be a bad ending, and it ended up being a bad ending. But there's a reason why he's one of the best, if not the best players on the planet. They're going to ride him as long as they can. But I think Ihart can be a little bit better. Chet, obviously doesn't have the weight to kind of bang with Jokic, but he blocked the shots and alter his shots the best he can. But those two can play better against him, but it's going to take a collective effort. They're going to have 2 guys on him at all time, but do your best with him. He's going to get his points, and he will moving forward. You just don't want Aaron Gordon and Porter Jr. and Christian Brown or Peyton Watson to beat you as well. But they have a good starting 5, as we mentioned the other day. Michael Porter Jr. has that. I've noticed a wrap on his left shoulder. you only had 2 points in the game. I'm kind of surprised. They only played 24 minutes, so they're doing it with Porter Jr. not 100%, and they have Peyton, Watson, and Westbrook, and they kind of leaned on Strother a little bit. He played 6 minutes in the game, but they're doing it basically with just 7 guys, and one guy's obviously not 100% healthy. So Thunder have to take advantage of that somehow, some way. Jokic will get his point.
Yeah, that was one of my questions was can Denver keep this up? First round of the playoffs, Oklahoma City had 7 guys average 20 or more minutes. Then you had Wiggins and Joe also in double figures. The Nuggets, basically 6 guys, 25 minutes or more each. Watson averaged 13 minutes in that first round. Do they have enough to keep this up? Because the longer this series go, I mean, that's a lot of minutes, and it's been a very long season so far. That's where I question Denver moving forward, even with them winning this game 1.
Some teams have the it factor when it comes to playoffs. They just get hot at the right time, and that's very possible with Denver because a lot of people thought they would lose to the Clippers, and that didn't happen. And they were, scored 121 against a good Thunder defense. But I would imagine it's only natural that as this series plays on, and hopefully it's more than just 4 games or 5, but as it plays on to get to game 6, that's where I'm really interested to see what Denver looks like, late in the third and the fourth quarter in a tight game. How much do they have left in the tank? I think Oklahoma City is going to be okay in that department just because of the deeper bench they can rely on. But, sometimes these teams just, as I mentioned, get hot at the right time. And, that could be the case with Denver if they should happen to lose this series.
I want to go back to the Hartenstein and Chet point just from a few moments ago. And we talk a lot about the non-Jokic minutes for the Denver Nuggets. I think there is also such a
thing. There's not many.
Not many. But in those, when they fall completely off, to me, I'm a little bit intrigued by the non-iHeart minutes for Oklahoma City. And when he has to catch a few minutes rest, you can see Zach Lowe put these numbers together, and I'm glad that he did. And I was listening to his podcast. So he went back and watched per 100 possessions. Jokic averaged 11 posts per 100 in games against not against Oklahoma City. But against Oklahoma City, when it's Chet, that average jumped up to almost 16 post attempts per 100 possessions. So the Nuggets know exactly what they're doing. They're going out and they're having to hunt and will hunt Chet when iHeart has to go to the bench.
Yeah, it's obviously it was interesting with them both being in foul trouble that iHeart didn't start the third quarter. I mean, and Caruso, I thought, gave him a spark. I would have probably liked to see Caruso a little bit longer because he's, his fingerprints were all over that game last night in a positive way. I thought they were doing well. And then, they switch out with Hartenstein and, they're just kind of hanging on at that point, 5-point, 6-point lead. But it'd be interesting to see. I would imagine they'll start Hartenstein again in game 2. But Mark Daigneault's not afraid to change the starting 5 if he has to, if he feels like it's going to favor his team to win. But someone like Caruso, play him as much as you can, as long as he's able to play at that level. And he plays so hard and tough, but he doesn't quit on plays. He'll grab from behind. You don't see him coming. He comes from behind, swipes it away. But you watch that rebound when Chet's second free throw when he missed it. Gordon cleared out Caruso pretty good. In the regular season that may have been a foul, but
it wasn't funny because there was a part of me in the first half that felt like we were watching February and March version of the officiating, that we were not watching playoff at all. And then towards the end of the game, it was like they started to settle in a little bit more on what playoff and the physicality actually looks like.
I think Caruso last night said that one of the, when he fouled, because I'm kind of surprised they called a foul on me because I kind of grazed him, and maybe they were in that zone where they're going to try to foul to stop the clock and give them the line. So we're just going to go ahead and call that foul now. You see sometimes that plays out to where you slap a guy in the hand and they just keep the play going and time running off the clock. But, if you didn't know what the score was and you saw what was going on, you would think Oklahoma City was the one behind on the scoreboard trying to foul, get to the line. Hopefully they miss and go down and make a shot. So, we can second guess all day long on this. And I hope we're not looking back at this game as the one that cost them a chance to play for a championship.
A couple more items before we wrap up here. The Caruso game, most points that he's had in a Thunder uniform. He was spectacular. Really one of the reasons why you bring a guy like that in. So I'll ask you this. They don't win when they get that performance from Caruso. They have the fast break points that are on their side. You go down the number of statistics that were on the side of the Thunder. Is this win simply an outlier from the Denver Nuggets, Steve? And is that maybe not giving them enough credit for the championship medal that we talked about at the beginning of this pod?
They need Caruso to have an impact in every game. But I think the Thunder can win. If he doesn't, I think the Thunder still can win as long as Chet and Dub play up to their level. They didn't, maybe a C, B for them. If they play B+, A-, they'll be okay. Lou Dort, struggled early, but he had an impact in that game as well. But, Isaiah Joe didn't hit a three. Maybe game 2 he hits a couple of threes. The Thunder bench has to really, I think, step up in this series to be an impact. Cason Wallace played 21 minutes, only had 3 points in the game. It wasn't a three-pointer. It was a 2+. It was an old-fashioned three. So I think, Denver, that starting 5 is so good. I think it may be probably better than Oklahoma City's starting 5 right now. It's the Thunder bench that has to, I think, step up and create havoc for Denver and tire them out.
All right, so as we look forward to game 2 coming up here tomorrow night, things that you feel like that we might need to see a little bit of a change from the Oklahoma City perspective. Anything stick out to you?
Don't stand around underneath the basket. Be aggressive. Make sure you block out. Be physical if you have to, and fight for that rebound, because Denver it seemed like Gordon and Christian Brown, those guys were all over that lane fighting for that basketball. And offensive rebounds is one of the reasons, other than Gordon's shot, offensive rebounds helped Denver win that game in game 1. So, rebounding is one. Turnovers, I know Denver turned it over a bunch, that I'm sure they would love to, if we turn it over less, we can win game 2 as well. But credit the Thunder defense for that. But the Thunder didn't turn it over as much. They were able to run as much as they could, but rebounding, though, was frustrating, and the foul situation late was frustrating to watch. But, game 2 is going to present all kinds of different challenges and different situations. And at this point, you're hoping Oklahoma City can push all the right buttons.
Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule. As you can see here, there's the game, 8:30 Wednesday night on TNT. Friday shifts to ESPN. That's a 9 o'clock start.
Woo.
Thoughts up for my man Steve McGehee, who will be in Denver for that one. And then Sunday, the 2:30 start time. That's an ABC contest. And then, if necessary, which we can pretty much assume that will indeed be necessary as well. But what a wild one. What a way to open up. And I know that was disappointing, but you're never going to fully just cruise. This is supposed to be difficult to get to these places.
Yes.
And no matter what, we all love the Thunder. They still have not had that in-depth moment where they've been able to, or they've had to be dragged into the deep end of the pool in the playoffs. So this is all part of the process if they want to become world champions.
Quick question to you, because I know my answer. Denver right now or Dallas last year? Which the better team? I'd say it's Dallas.
Yes, I think Dallas is the better team. And the thing about Dallas last year was the fact that it was built perfectly around Luka, not only his scoring output, but the lack of defensive effort that Luka puts in. Because if you got past Luka, look at those dudes that they had put together. You had Gafford that was back there. You had PJ Washington. Like that team was built much better than what I think this Denver team is. But Dallas still doesn't have Jokic.
Yeah, that gives you hope in this series. I'm like, they were really close to forcing a game 7 with Dallas, and they didn't have Caruso, and they didn't have Hartenstein.
Yeah.
So that's what gives you hope in this series. I'm like, these guys know how to play against quality, good teams. And, that's why I brought it up. I'm like, okay, you lose game one, but, the team you played last year down in Texas, I think, is a little bit better than what we're seeing from the guys in Colorado. Nothing to take away from Denver, but, that Dallas team was tall and they were deep. Derek Jones Jr. had an impact in that game. That was a tougher opponent. So I think Oklahoma City can find a way to scratch and get back in the series. I still say it's going to go at least 6 games.
I think it'll go 6, and maybe I might have to adjust. I initially had 6. After the win last night, I might adjust to 7, but, we got a long way to go in this series for sure.
Yep.
Steve, appreciate you, man. Great work as always. We want to remind everyone that you can catch up on everything Thunder related on our websites, news9.com, newson6.com as well. Steve, we'll see you back in the arena. Do you get the sweet courtside seat again coming up for game number 2?
I'm going to give it to Dean Blevins.
Okay.
We try to trade off on the road. We don't get that seat in Denver, and Denver will be, section 500, and they only have 400 sections. So we'll be on top of the roof in Denver. But now, seat in Denver is not bad, but it's not courtside. But it's pretty cool to sit down there. But there's a lot going on. There's a lot to look at. It was a great atmosphere. I don't take that stuff for granted. It was just, you take pictures, because you never know we're going to be in that seat again. But Oklahoma City is one of the few NBA teams out there that actually have some seats reserved for the media. So that's very cool. Hat tip to Oklahoma City for making that happen.
So in Denver, you'll literally be a mile high inside of the...
No, I'll be familiar with the sections at Paycom. I'll be in section 103, I think. Maybe they're going to put me in the rafter since I'm the visitor. We'll see.
Steve, good stuff as always, man, and thank you so much for joining us.
Right, take care.
All right, that's Steve McGehee who's joining us here on the digital desk. I want to thank him and everyone for tuning in here for the Thunder Report. And just a casual reminder, we will be streaming for you the pregame press conferences, the postgame press conferences, all on the News 9 YouTube channel. So go and check that out as soon as you're either walking out of the arena or if you're at home on a late night on the couch the way that I was last night. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time with another Thunder Report. My name is Jeremie Poplin, and this has been the Digital Desk.